Ride my hot-headed horse full speed at the jump. Okay, what do I know?
Back when I was 16, I was a regular at our pony club. For those who don't know, that's a club where you bring your own horse or pony and get riding lessons from instructors. Our sole instructor was interesting. If your parents were useful to her, then you got a free pass, but if not, you bore the rough edge of her tongue and was set up to fail. You can guess which camp I fell into. My usual mount was not a jumper, and this day we were concentrating on tricky jump spreads and pacing, so I borrowed a friend's backup horse who was a known spicy ride. The owner was adamant I not wind him up as he would lose his mind and go full throttle. So I'm carefully taking him around the course, dropping to a trot between jump approaches, then gunning him a little just before the jumps. Exactly as his owner wanted, and we were clearing the jumps just fine. Instructor will call her D tells me I'm going too slowly and to keep him at a fast canter the whole way. I respond that he will get overly excited if I did that, and we went back and forth a bit. Finally D roars at me that she's the instructor, I'm just the rider, do what I'm told or go home. Gun it, she yells, so I gunned it. I heard his owner's gasp from across the ring. Somehow we cleared the first jump, turned, and instead of steadying for the second jump I let him go for it. He absolutely went for it. We had no chance with the second jump. We were going too fast for him to judge take off, so we hit the jump literally and cartwheel. I flew over his head. His front hoof came down on top of my riding helmet, slid down the front, taking off the visor and the very tip of my nose. Concussion for me, a destroyed helmet. The horse was fine if a little spooked, and Madam's expert opinion took a hit from the horrified parents and students watching. I told you he'd lose his mind if we gunned it. Suicidal compliance. Really lucky the horse didn't get seriously hurt. Were you crippled or dead? I and some other people became students to a natural horsemanship trainer. For those who don't know, they advocate for a holistic relationship between horse and rider based on horse behavior and social structure. He started out helpful and we improved a lot. Then hubris took a hold of him when he accumulated a following. He would show up with increasingly larger numbers of hangers-ons who got most of his attention, and a stereo on his truck blasting woo-woo songs about the spiritual link between horse and rider. Others refused to participate in the spectacle, saying rightly that they paid for instruction, not to be a pro. I continued. I don't know why until one day he and my Mustang who took no crap had a disagreement. I honestly don't know the point of this exercise, but I was asked to go into the round pen and ride him at a canter. Around and around we went while I was supposed to pull on the outside rein while he drove my horse forward. No change from the horse besides his running at a full gallop, faster and faster, leaning further into the inside until I was afraid that his legs would get caught in the round pen bars and we would have a nasty accident. I yelled to the trainer that this wasn't working, my horse was panicking, and to please stop. Here's where his hubris kicked in. He couldn't be seen as wrong to his audience. So he told me to keep up with my feudal pulley. And that's when the longest stream of epithets in my life came pouring out of my mouth, the abridged version being "you fucking fraud, stop this horse right fucking now, and you and your peanut gallery get off this property." We got horse thought, and I let into him some more about his irresponsibility, how dangerous his little demonstration was, and how many scorching epithets I had at my disposal. The music stopped, there was an uncomfortable silence, and the peanut gallery slunk away. Never heard from or about the guy again. I apologized to Horse, made him comfortable, and we split a package of black licorice, I think. So this was malicious compliance, but it could have been if I didn't stand up for myself, and I'm glad I did. It was an important lesson for me about not blindly following authority, my own little Stanford prison experiment. Not cool. That's how horses get killed. Flipping. I don't care that that's how riders get killed too, as they have agency. So what happened to her? My kids and I were lucky. We acquired Myra who, IMO, was an ADHD horse who needed at least 30 men circling in the ring to kick back and calm the F-Baxelshasters K down. We had no props with her after she had run her agitation off. Such a good girl.
Charges need to be pressed and compensated paid.
I was reminded of this story after the recent passing of a former work colleague, Jean. Jean was a keen cyclist in her 60s who used to cycle during her lunch hour. One lunch hour, while cycling down the main street of our town, a car door opened and Jean struck the door. She fell onto the ground, sustaining minor injuries. The driver leaped from the car and started abusing Jean for minor damage to her car door. Jean tried to apologize, but the driver just abused her, demanding that the police be called and compensation be paid. A passerby helped Jean up. Jean tried to reason with the woman, but she demanded the police be called. The police arrived shortly after and heard the stories from both sides and the witnesses. The driver demanded charges be laid, and the police officer agreed, charging the driver with a range of offences. The driver got a hefty fine and license suspended. Jean's brother was a solicitor who sent a letter demanding just what the driver wanted compensation. It wasn't much, maybe a couple of $1,000s. The driver promptly paid. What a satisfying story. Rip Jean. In Netherlands, it's common to open the car door with your wrong hand. This forces you to lean across and look behind you for any cyclists. Exact same thing happened to my boss. I was on my first day of work, riding with the boss. Boss was the nicest person in the world, though not the best driver, and this woman opened her car door into traffic. Drove right through the door, and this lady was screaming at him. Non-stop. Cop gave her the ticket. I was parked in a tight spot one rainy night. I failed to check for cyclists, and a man on a bike was knocked off when I opened my door. He was furious, and rightly so. He wasn't badly hurt once he got over the shock. It wasn't until later I discovered a quite expensive repair to my door. My fault though, I'm much more careful now. As a bicyclist, I am always surprised at how invisible we are despite the garish clothing. It took years to get Pendioti to put in graphic or safety video about this on the site, and then the wild, crazy vehicular cyclists complained that reaching with the opposite hand doesn't work, and drivers went off about how people on bikes should not be allowed on the road at all. The amount of vitriol was immense but not unexpected. Fortunately, the material remains in the driver's manual and online.